what's up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 421. We have a fun show tonight because we have our good friend David Laney on the show. We love chatting with him. He's fresh off a huge win at the Golden Gate Classic, which is a new race, 100-kilometer event. Took place this last weekend. David won it.
Spoilers.
Yeah, bit of a spoiler. Took home a nice big check. Literally. We're going to chat with David on tonight's show. Sit back, relax. The show starts now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 421. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Wednesdays to spend a little bit of it with us. Kim, how are you?
Doing well.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. We just sat down to do the live show. And of course, Gus has now decided, like, it's time to party.
Gus is scratching at the door, so we might lose you for a second. But before he doesn't rule our lives. We have an exciting show tonight. Our good friend David Laney is joining us. We're going to chat with him all about his recent travels to Europe. He was over there for UTMB, but even more recently, his win at the Golden Gate Classic, which is, I believe, a new event. It's a 100-kilometer race, sort of through the Marin Headlands and across the Golden Gate Bridge, kind of taking the place of the North Face 50-miler. Huge win this last week, and we're excited to chat with David Laney. But of course, before we introduce our guest, we got to introduce Kim.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing well. Hi, everyone. Kim Tashima Newberry here, as always. If you're new, come say hi in the chat. If you have questions for our wonderful guest, David, please ask them in the chat as well.
Yeah, we have a new feature in the chat that actually allows you to type in your question, submit it, and then we can show it throughout the show and on air, which is super fun and cool. We are live with the GR crew. We like to do Ginger Runner Live now specifically for the GR crew, and then we post it 24 hours later for everyone to enjoy. If you would like to join the GR crew, all you have to do is head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. All tiers get access to tons of perks, including these live shows, our daily live streams, plus a whole bunch more. Consider it. It's an amazing group of runners from around the world, an amazing community, and we're so appreciative of them. They basically help us do all that we do here, from live streams, reviews, films, everything. So thank you, GR crew. One individual in particular at the top tier, Brian Sands. We like to shout him out at the beginning of every Ginger Runner Live episode as well. Super inspiring individual, has an amazing run journey himself, ultra runner, has run 100 miles, and is just truly an amazing member of this community. So thank you, Brian. We appreciate the support. He does so much for the trail running community beyond the GR crew. He's just that great of a human. I might let you bounce out to take care of Gus, but I am going to introduce our incredible guest joining us. Although, actually, I don't know where he is right now. He could very well be in Washington State.
An ice bath?
He could be in an ice bath. He could be from his van life. I don't know. Without further ado, David Laney.
Yay!
How you guys doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good.
Kim will still be able to hear you. She's just gonna take Gus outside because,
Oh yeah. Totally.
duty or nature calls.
Yeah.
So where are you coming to us from? Are you at home now, or are you still traveling?
I'm still in California. Yeah.
Okay, because you've been traveling a bunch all summer, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What? How does that sort of fit into your training schedule? Because anytime I see you posting, I'm like, oh, he's in the Alps today, or oh, he's in the Sierras today, or oh, he's always traveling. So when you are taking on these big events, how do you manage to juggle both the racing, the training, and also the obligations for the traveling, like working with craft and stuff like that?
Yeah. So it used to be pretty easy. My only job was training. But starting January 1st, as well as being an athlete, I'm a full-time employee of Craft North America, doing events and being a tech rep and working with footwear product. And so it's it's remote and a lot of travel, but it's basically a 9 to 5. Like, I'm on a laptop 6, 7, 8 hours a day.
Wow.
Plus traveling. So it's like, it was a rude awakening. Like, I used to think like, oh, training, it's just like so easy. Like you go run, do a 4-hour run and then hang out the rest of the day. And now it's like, whoa, people do 100-milers and have full-time jobs. Like, those are the inspiring people. Pro trail runners are like big, soft wussies.
Yeah.
Because like, what do we do? Lay around all day? So mad respect to everyone who has a 9 to 5. Mad respect to those people who have children.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would take care of a human, have a job, and I mean, I run in the dark like always. Like I'm up at 5 and I have a headlamp,
Yeah.
and that's what I do now. I used to sleep until 7:30 and get out the door by 10, and have coffee at 2. Like breakfast would be at noon.
Right. I think I
So
remember we talked about this. I think last time you were on the show, because last time you were on the show was either earlier this year or late in 2021. But I remember we talked about the new job at Kraft and how it was transitioning
yeah,
from just being a pro athlete to actually working and being able to
yeah,
do some stuff behind the scenes. We're going to chat about that in
yeah,
today's show.
yeah.
But what an amazing sort of experience that you are now living, which is here's the 9 to 5, here's the juggling
Yeah,
of all of it.
totally.
You're working in the industry, but it still feels different.
Mhm.
Are you used to it yet? Like, are you used to this new schedule?
I think
Kim's back.
like sort of. I'm getting used to it. I think the thing I did this year was I still did all the mountain stuff I wanted to, and I still did all this computer stuff. Like I basically didn't sleep this summer is where
Wow.
we're getting. And that was like I am done. Like this was my last race for the season, and I'm like, we'll see if I go running tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like it's like the first time in my life I've been like, yeah, I'm gonna take 2 weeks
Yeah.
and not train hard.
How does that?
Um,
I mean, how does that feel? Because you're going from a lifestyle that I think there's the Let's see, the romantic way that we think about a professional runner's life is that it is you wake up when you want to, but your job is to train. It's to eat well. It's to go outside and enjoy yourselves on the trails or the mountains or on the track and to get those workouts in because your job is to perform at events. So
yeah.
that transition, that's a pretty hefty change. So
Mhm.
how does it feel? Do you miss it? Do you love this new direction?
I think it's a little bit of both. So
Okay.
there's been, adding structure to your life for someone who hasn't had a ton of structure is pretty good.
Mm,
Like I waste less time, which is great. Um, but it's also like, every day has to be pretty dialed. And just getting out for a training session in the morning just has to be really focused, and I can't spend a half an hour foam rolling and stretching. Like I have to get out for my run and I have to be on my laptop at 7:30.
sure.
So that's been different, but I think it's also been good because in the past I really like training, so I just do that all day. I'll go for a 4-hour run for the training benefit really should have been a 2-hour run.
I got it.
Now I don't have time to go for a 4-hour run every day. So instead of running 30% more than I should just because it's fun, I run pretty much what I should. And it's not quite as much training's not quite as much fun, but it's
Yeah.
probably better for me from a training standpoint.
Essentially quality over quantity. You really probably had to focus in on
Totally.
every day has a purpose rather than
Totally.
today's kind of aimless. Let's go for a cool adventure to this peak or something.
Exactly.
So I guess the big question then is how has that translated to race performance? Because you're obviously still a very competitive athlete. This last weekend is proof in the pudding. But something like UTMB, global stage, you have this new lifestyle, this new training regime, which is different for you. Does it have its benefits, its perks, or was it sort of a rude awakening? What happened?
I would say both. So a few races this year went fairly well, and the primary race, UTMB, kind of fell apart. So UTMB in the past has taken me 22 hours. This year
Yeah.
it took 24. So it took 2 hours longer. While some of the 50K and 100K races have been pretty smooth because they take 3 to 8 hours. So training for a 3 to 8 hour race right now is pretty easy.
Yeah.
I have the time for that. Training for a 24-hour race or a 22-hour race like UTMB, I didn't have enough of those all day mountain hangout days, where you just wake up at, hit the trail at sunset and kind of finish, or hit the trail at sunrise and kind of finish in sunset. So that was a big, that was where I kind of blew it. And had I just prioritized a little bit better,
Sure.
I think, next summer I'll be able to do that a little bit better, but definitely a learning experience.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm not able to relate to what it's like to win, but I am able to relate to the idea. When I took on 100-mile training week, the last couple of years I've done 100-mile training week,
Yeah.
which to you I'm sure is like, yeah, that's an average. That's a Tuesday through a Friday. For me, that was the first time I'd done it a couple of years ago, and then I did it for the next couple of years. And the only thing that I really drew from it is that we're fully capable of running 100 miles in a week. It is the scheduling and pushing those runs to specific times a day. It's the most difficult part of it. So I imagine now that's probably what you're facing, which is full-time job, 9 to 5, you're on meetings, you're on the computer, email, all that kind of stuff. And you're trying to find those slivers to get that good block in, right?
Totally. Yeah.
What's volume been like? What did it take a dramatic decrease, or is it like, yeah, a little bit less, but quality's good?
I would say not a dramatic decrease. If I look at my yearly mileage will probably end up being the same as it's been over the past decade. Maybe 3 to 5% less, but not a ton. I just think, a lot of the just hanging out in them. Like a lot of times I'll do a run and then I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go hike this thing. And so it's like it is training, but it's kind of like just hanging out in the mountains.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot less of that. There's been maybe 20 days this summer that I did that. And in the past it's like 50 or 60 days.
Got it.
So.
And do you still train primarily solo?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I do want to talk a bit about UTMB and, of course, Golden Gate Classic. I am also curious, though, I do want to touch on this a little bit, just your connection to the sport and how it has changed now that you are working with a brand as opposed to working for a brand, or as a professional athlete. You are now employed by a brand and you have a much different perspective / input into how the sport evolves and changes. What is it that you do at Craft? Like, give us a rundown of what these days entail, these long days, and also how it feels to be on that side of it.
Yeah. So, my primary job is being a tech rep. So going to the running stores, like last week or yesterday, I guess, was Healdsburg Running Company. So I was in Lake Sonoma. They had a Trail Sisters group run night. I brought the demo shoes. They brought like a whole Thanksgiving picnic. They tried the shoes out. We got to chat a little bit. I think the cool thing about Craft is they want to sell shoes, obviously.
Sure.
But they're so the Swedish culture is so focused on people getting out and moving. That's like a big focus of what we do. Like, go inspire people. Like, our slogan is bringing tools for everyday world champions and everyday heroes. So it's like, have performance-oriented product, but have it for the masses and inspire those people to move. And so it's really aligns with what I've been, focused on my whole career. Like, get people running, have people start trail running, because 99.9% of the people I've ever talked to who try, jump in, are like, oh, this is super cool. Like, there's a cool community. This is something that increases their personal confidence. They've taken on a challenge and, done something that's hard.
Yeah.
And so that's, really fun to see.
And I think the last time we had you on the show, I think we were talking a little bit about legacy and kind of what we want to leave to the sport. And I think you were mentioning then as well, kind of that same connection to just wanting to inspire people to get out and bringing new people into the community as well.
Yeah, it was one of the coolest parts, I think, of our last conversation. And I'm so glad to hear that you basically disclosed to us that your new goal in life and in running is to inspire as many people to just get out and do it. And it's really cool to see that not only are you still doing that, but you're able to do it, make a living doing it, but also still enjoy doing it and to actually see and have tangible results with that. So this last year, give us an idea of like where you've traveled and sort of these things that you've done and groups of people that you've managed to inspire to do that. Because I'm super curious, like what you were doing in California and what you were doing across the globe and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I've probably done 30 or 40 group runs, like hosted group runs from running shops this year. We did Kansas City, Missouri.
Nice.
We've been in Boston, a whole bunch of New England shops, Maine, Chicago, like just the whole country. We've hired more tech reps since then, so now I don't have to do the whole country.
Oh yeah, so you're not the only person that does what you do, right?
Yeah. And now like mostly it's, we did a bunch in Idaho, Montana, Utah, bunch in California. So I'll be more West Coast, Oregon, obviously, Washington. Just did one at Seven Hills a couple weeks ago, and they've got the shoes coming in. So yeah.
Yeah, we saw that you posted it there. We weren't able to make it, but
yeah.
I was going to show this. This is, by the way, non-sponsored. It's not sponsored. But we did just get our hands on these. So David's obviously very kind to get us a pair of the new Craft Trail CTM Ultra Trail, or new trail shoes. Did you have a hand or an input in the design of this shoe? Because this is much different than what Craft has come out with in the past, because it's much more trail oriented. So I was curious, like,
totally.
Where is David Laney's input on the shoe?
Yeah. So it's a good question. We've kind of started in a gravel category. So that's our kind of more pure trail shoe, and we've got some pure road shoes as well. But the first shoe we made, the CTM Ultra, was designed for Tommy Rivs to run across Sweden, 65 miles a day for 20 days straight, and get the record across Sweden on like dirt roads and single track and some paved roads. So they made the CTM Ultra kind of this gravel bike, or like, think Subaru Outback. So it's kind of a road product that you can take off-road. So kind of this hybrid category. And then from there, we've kind of brought in some trail product and some road product. So it's really fun working with the designer. We've got a quarterly call with the whole team. We talk to them once a week and just really test the stuff that's coming out for the future and kind of give feedback on what's working and what's not. So it's been fun.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And I know that it's got to be really rewarding to be an athlete, not only running and working for a brand, but to see input and, you get to test this stuff, prototypes, and give your feedback and see that implemented. It's a really cool thing, I can imagine, as a professional athlete. I do want to touch on UTMB and, of course, a Golden Gate Classic. So let's start with UTMB. So you've run that race before. You've already mentioned how you've run it 22 hours in the past, and you've done very well there. This year, less. So was there a certain moment where you're like, this is going to be a tough year? Or does that cross David Laney's mind? Is David Laney more like, I'm just going to grind it out this year and next year we'll go harder or something? Like, how does it play out for you in a big stage like that?
So over the summer, I just like kept trying to convince myself I was in good enough shape to go out there. And multiple times I was like, talked to my manager and was like, maybe we should pull the plug. And they're, it's so good to have a mentor or somebody to talk to. Just be like, hey, like, let's just see what happens. Like, I think often, we're all afraid of blowing it. And I think it's good to have somebody tell you, like, who cares? Like, sure, what happens if you run 3 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours slower? Like, yeah, maybe that's not what we had hoped for and what you had worked for, but like there's still an experience to be had and things to be learned, and you can still inspire people. So like selfishly, I'm like, I don't want to go unless I'm going to be good.
Mm.
But for like the greater big picture, like you can still show pictures of Chamonix and inspire people to maybe take a trip over there. You can still do something hard, which is kind of the point anyway.
Mm-hmm.
From a brand standpoint, they're like, hey, just get out there. Like, we're not that worried about, obviously you should train hard and you should try and win, but like, just go race and we'll see what happens. So the summer was just kind of rough, and I just kind of knew that going into it. And then I got to Courmayeur at like 10 hours, and I was like, wow, I'm a minute slower than I was in 2015. Like, maybe things will go okay.
Not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And then I got to the top of Grand Col Ferret, and I was like 20 minutes slower. And so I was like, okay, like, yeah, we'll kind of see. And then in the last kind of 30 miles, it didn't really ever fall apart. It just never really came together, which had kind of what had happened in previous years. Like, things really came together over the last 50K. So just kind of, you didn't have that finishing, like, whether it was focus or strength or, just being seasoned from a summer in the mountains. I think that's a big part of it.
You weren't having to like triage major catastrophes or anything like that, right? You're not nutrition off and that kind of thing.
So here's kind of what I learned is when you go into a race in less than ideal shape, you just don't have that top end to destroy yourself. So nothing ever went wrong. Like, nutrition was fine. Like, everything felt fine. I just couldn't go any faster. And then I recovered really quickly because I didn't really go into that like nuclear zone that I have in the past and then been destroyed for 3 months. So like 2 weeks later, I was like, yeah, I can race again in 2 months, or like, so kind of a unique experience for me.
That's, you just put it in a way that I think I finally understood what sort of separates an elite from a normal runner. It's, yeah, you're an amazing athlete, but I think what is amazing is that you are able to train and account for that additional 5% performance or 15% performance. So when you are in peak shape, when an elite athlete is in peak shape, you can go nuclear. You can go to that well and dig deeper and get into that pain cave deeper. What an interesting way to look at it, where that could set you up for a bigger success at UTMB or any race really, but then you're having to recover for 3 months because you've just absolutely destroyed it. But how you were able to do this in more of a tame David Laney at like good shape, managed to get through the whole thing and enjoy all 100+ miles, and you were running probably a couple days later. Like, that's what an interesting way of seeing that.
Yeah.
I want to train to get that extra 15% and just see what happens. What is Ginger Runner like when he goes nuclear?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can start winning races.
Are you fucking with me right now? So taking that experience, one thing I did sort of realize while you were talking about that too. Do you have a much closer connection to your brand now because you're working for the brand, and you sort of mentioned, do you this at UTMB, but do you find yourself working a lot more rather than like when you go on a training run, are you working in your mind or working while you're on the training run? Like, do you have that ability to disconnect? This is David Laney getting out for some respite versus this is David Laney like logging more hours.
Yeah, I think training, from like, part of the reason I like training alone is because I can have that time to myself. And so sometimes I do work through problems. Like, I'm like, okay, these are things I need to get done. How do I want to do this? Or what things do I really care about? Like, what are my priorities? And sometimes it is just like more relaxing and less think. I'm a pretty like 100 things are going on in my head a minute. And so that's, I think, part of why I like running is because that's totally acceptable. Like you have 2 hours to just kind of think about whatever you want,
Yeah.
and it's okay to be distracted and look at stuff, and have that time to just be like kind of free in your own mind and physically and mentally free. Yeah,
Yeah, you're able to disconnect a little bit.
totally.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Talking about the Golden Gate Classic. So this is a race that's new to me. I haven't really been following the Spartan World Circuit or anything like that. Have you had this on your radar for a long time, or was this a last minute, like, let's just wrap up the season and get a good effort on amazing trails? Sort of what was your connection to the event?
Yeah, it's kind of last minute. So Kraft is one of the sponsors of the Spartan Ultra Trail Series. So it had kind of been on my radar, but I wasn't really sure and I was going to do it until probably a month ago. I had wanted to do one more race before the end of the season, and so this one just I'll make any excuse to go run in the headlands.
No
So
doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this course looks pretty cool actually. Let's just I've always loved that North Face race. It's that time of year in the headlands, just so beautiful. So it was a good excuse to get down there.
In this case, in this race, you obviously did quite well. What was the mindset? Was it this is David Laney, just let's get
Full
nuclear?
send.
Yeah, was it full send? Or was it casual effort, end the summer, end the season, let's just see what happens?
Yeah. So training into it was full send. I felt like workouts had gone very well. I felt pretty fit. I felt like I was ready to go as hard as I could. And then I would say in kind of the week or two, maybe the 10 days before, like everything kind of went comically wrong. I fell down I slipped down like a flight of stairs
Oh
and
no.
messed up my arm super bad. And so like I literally couldn't run. I had to I could run, but I had to kind of hold my arm like this and run with one arm.
Oh.
And so like I'm that guy running down. Like when runners see someone who's obviously injured, you're kind of like, maybe a day off would be helpful. And I'm that guy who's like going running and like
You're throwing one pole out, you're holding the other pole. You're like, you're good to go.
totally, yeah. So that happened, and then like I'm like heading down to the race, car battery dies, and so I have to like fix that, like go get a new battery, all this kind of stuff. Just like kind of everything, and just comical. And so by the time I got to the starting line, I was just kind of like, I just kind of want to go on a run. Like I just want to go have a nice run. And that's kind of what ended up happening. Like it was just kind of I was just so thankful to be out there. It was just enjoyable to just run and not worry about anything.
Was it? You go ahead.
Oh, sometimes it's just that little bit of perspective too, where things seem to be going wrong in every other aspect. And then once you get to your race or your run, it's like, well, all I really need to do is just run and eat.
Yeah.
That's all.
You're
Yeah,
already
yeah.
mentally prepared for everything to go wrong anyways. You're like, screw it.
What a treat just
What
to
a
be able
treat
to, like,
to just run. Yeah.
Exactly. We're so lucky to yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good to just like have that feeling, be like on the trail and just be like, this is pretty awesome. Like, I love your boy Scott Jurek, and I love that like this is horrible mentality, but sometimes it's just so good to be like, this is really cool out here.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, especially the headlands.
Yeah. And Crispin in the chat, and Crispin is kind of local to that area as well, says, oh, wow, I'm looking at the course. It's epic. Climbs all the way to the top of Mount Tam. Yeah, I haven't really looked at the course myself.
Yeah, I briefly looked at the map today knowing we were going to talk to you, David, and I saw that it went up to Tam, and I was kind of surprised. I'm like, no race has done that I know of or that I've raced, because I did the North Face one like a number of times. That's a pretty epic climb and a doozy to just throw in the middle of the mix too.
Totally. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So the race director actually did a 300-mile, just his own 300-mile project exclusively up and down Mount Tam.
What?
Yeah, he's like this winter. His name's I believe Michael Lee. And so somehow he convinced the Park Service to let him run the race up there. And it's really cool. It was like so beautiful.
Wow.
You get the whole view, and yeah, it was awesome.
I'm more like now I'm really. Should we just bring him on? Let's bring him on right now.
Worked out like if I do
300
300
miles?
mile.
Was it
you'll
just
run the race.
repeats?
I believe so.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the Park Service is like, oh yeah, we're gonna name the mountain after you, and you can have a race
guess
here
so.
too.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool to
Yeah.
include that feature.
Yeah, they did a great job on the course. It was cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
Question from Stacy in the chat. Stacy says, David, how do you choose your race schedule for the year?
Yeah, it's a great question, especially this year.
And I think a lot of people are curious, especially with elite or pro runners, and then now yourself doing full-time work.
Yeah, full job, full time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I usually pick 2 pretty key races. So like UTMB and one more usually, and kind of build the season around those 2. So usually those are going to be 100 milers because that's what I prefer, but sometimes it's 100K. So pick 2 and then kind of fit 2 or 3 other races around supplementing those. So prepare what races will prepare best for.
It makes sense. Sort of building your schedule around your, A races.
Yeah, exactly.
2 of them, and then being able to sort of supplement with the ones that build you up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the smartest sort of approach. You've always been very, very keen on that, like not over racing yourself and definitely giving yourself the opportunity to perform, not underperforming. And yeah, it's amazing. Angela in the chat there. It's like a 10-peat times 100. Yeah, we're all kind of blown away that someone would run up and down Tam for 300 miles. An amazing accomplishment. So what are your big takeaways then from the Golden Gate Classic? Because you came away with a giant check, which is amazing. But you, as a very seasoned ultra runner, what sort of like tidbits were you able to come away from this event with the big win and be able to implement into the future?
Yeah, a couple things. They had spring energy on the course, which was I really like Awesome Sauce.
Yeah,
it's super good.
We're fans.
It's pretty fun. It's a good flavor. And so the effort was slightly like it was an enjoyable effort, so I was able to eat more. But then I was also able, like, eating more actually made a bigger difference than I thought it would. So I would say typically in a race, I'm able to consume 250 calories an hour. And if I eat much more, like based on that effort of going pretty hard, and if I eat much more than that, I'll get a little sick or nauseated and won't be able to eat as much. This race, I was eating probably 400 calories an hour, and that felt really comfortable.
Oh, wow.
So I would say reducing the effort by maybe like 5%, like not a ton, 5% maybe. Running slightly easier made me able to eat significantly more, which made me run faster and recover quicker. So I'm not sure that's what I would always do, like run easy enough to eat a lot. But I think there's a time and a place for running easier, to eat more, to recover faster.
I mean, that's a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people too, I mean, I think a couple members of your family took part in an Ironman this weekend, and nutrition was an issue.
Huge issue.
And I think that's something that can get really frustrating for people. But to hear someone like yourself, who is an elite runner, still tinkering with nutrition and kind of finding out, like unlocking new things, it's encouraging for everyone else who is kind of like, oh, I'm having this struggle, or this worked and now it's not. Encouraging
is the right word, because I think we think elites have it dialed, and if they have a bad experience, they need to redial it, or they'll get it figured out. But it's really nice to know, like, elites are still figuring things out. Still tinkering.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always, I think everyone should always be, it's in every part of life. Like, be learning, be open to be open to absorbing everything.
Was there major competition in the sense where, some people are going out super fast? So did you have to mentally, like, I'm not going to hold on to that pack, I'm going to do what I came in here to do, which is just kind of, have a good time? Or were you pacing back and forth and leapfrogging with guys? And like, how was that race playing out, and how did that play into your mental prep?
Yeah. It was a smaller race, so there were not too many people after the first mile. So I was, there were times when I was like, had to look around and see if there were people
Sure.
close by.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was kind of nice just to have a day.
That
to
also
rest.
plays its role,
Yeah,
though, right?
Because I think we've talked to some friends who are elite runners, and we found that some people really like to be able to have people to run with or be able to see who they're competing with to try and get that actually push them. So it's interesting.
I mean, you've run Tiger Claw. You know what it's like to
Yeah.
run a race where you don't know where the lead pack is because they could be
Oh,
on any
yeah.
loop. And we talked with Caitlin Gerben, who's
Yeah.
off the run. She's volunteered it. She's one of our aid station captains, but also has run Tiger Claw and says the same thing. She likes to be able to see that competition so she can
Totally.
gauge her pace. And UTMB, I know that you ran a little bit with her at UTMB, or at least saw each other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a part of her game. And I imagine if you're leading a race, probably a big mental part of it is,
How far on the gas pedal? did I
yeah,
go?
how much can I just kind of pull off and eat more and do this sort of thing without blowing up or letting someone in second place catch me? I mean, that plays its own kind of mental games, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless, David Laney put together one hell of a day out there on what looked like a bluebird day, which is not always the case in November, December in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But you put together a solid race, my friend, winning a big fat check. Do they actually give you the big check, or did you have to return it?
They gave it to us. Yeah.
have you tried
So I don't-
cashing it?
No, I don't know what to. It's kind of awkward. Like I was like, I don't know what to do with this now.
We've talked about doing big checks at Tiger Claw, and I think we
Yeah.
had that same discussion of like, I don't want to hand someone a big check and them go, "Is
Do
this
I-
the check?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what do I do with this? I don't know where to put my hands."
Yeah.
Regardless, man, an amazing, amazing event. Congratulations to you. I'm
Thanks.
really excited that you were able to pull off the win there. A shout out to Amelia Boone as well, who pulled off the
Yeah.
victory, second overall, I believe, and first
Yep.
place female. Congratulations. I want to turn the tables over to you, David. Where can people find you on social? Where can people see what you're up to next? Where can people find out more about what you're doing with Craft?
Yeah. Probably Instagram is the best spot. Just at David Laney 12 on Instagram.
Well worth the follow, just because David is always somewhere cool in the world. Spends a lot of time in the North Cascades. but
Makes lots
across
of
the globe.
reels.
Lots of great reels. Your ice content is like ice bath content is like
Is it
through
your
the
favorite
roof.
content?
It's my favorite content. If I could just watch David Laney ice reels all the
You
time,
can.
can I? There was like the last one that you posted. Oh, I don't remember it now. I'm not. Go watch him, everybody. That's my piece of advice to everybody. So, David, don't stop making them. Everyone, go watch him. We appreciate, David, you being on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, it's always fun.
Absolutely. That's it, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into Ginger Runner Live. Before we go, though, we do like to recognize members of the community who go above and beyond. We call it our GR Crew Members of the Week. Kim, who is this week's GR Crew member?
This week's GR Crew member of the week is Vivian Stromecki, and I want to give Vivian a shout out. Vivian has been having a chaotic year, but Vivian did sign up for her first trail race and totally crushed it out there this past weekend. So congratulations, Vivian.
Way to go, Vivian. We appreciate you, and you're an awesome member of the community. We love having you be a part of it. That is it for Ginger Runner Live, episode number 421. A big thank you to our guest, David Laney. Go follow him on social, including Instagram, David Laney 12. It's well worth it. Again, lots of really cool pics from around the world, always up to cool adventures. And as Kim said, great reels with ice content. You won't want to miss it. Thanks all. We appreciate you so much. Join the GR Crew, patreon.com/thegingerrunner for all fun perks. And we hope you get out there, train hard, race harder, and party the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Ginger runners.